Hi, everyone. Dragonfly Rising's School of Data proudly presents the AI Demystified for Executives podcast. This is the podcast for executives who want to learn how to apply AI to their business. I'm your host, Andrew Salties. Today, we're exploring how to bridge the gap between individual AI innovation and organizational AI strategy. There's an innovation revolution that's happening in your organization right now. Your employees are already leading the way with AI, and they're just doing it informally. Recent studies show that 65% of marketers and 64% of journalists use AI to boost their productivity by up to 25%. But many organizations aren't yet capturing this innovation potential at scale. If you think about the reality of AI adoption, while only 15% of employees say their organization has communicated a clear AI strategy, informal adoption is widespread. Like I just mentioned in that intro, that 65% of marketers and 64% of journalists are already using AI. So the warning to executives really is that if we don't provide them with these tools, they're going to find their ways, potentially leading to security risks with open source models, and there could be data leakage. While 2/3 of employees believe AI will positively impact their work, nearly 7 in 10 never use AI at all. And only 1 in 10 use AI applications at least weekly. So why do employees hide AI usage? There's really multiple barriers that prevent open adoption, if you will. One is fear of punishment or negative consequences, unclear policies, and a lack of guidance from leadership. There's often concern about job security if increased productivity is revealed. And there's an absence of psychological safety in discussing AI use. A lot of people still have a lot of fear of AI replacing their job. And there's a lack of training. 47% of employees report there's no AI training offered at all. And there's really no recognition often for innovation. So these different types of characteristics here and these barriers really do prevent some of this open adoption. We really need to transform that and really need to change how we're approaching this. When you start to think then about how do you build this AI strategy and how do you build a culture to support AI in your organization, we have another issue as well. This being a translation gap. And what is a translation gap? This is when it comes down to results. So if you think about an executive team and what your ideas are is, let's say we're going to measure fraud, of how do you measure the success of a fraud detection algorithm, you're going to often think about it in the number of fraudulent transactions that were caught or the number of fraudulent transactions that were prevented. But you're going to think about it in business terms, as you'd be expected to. The data scientists, on the other hand, are often thinking about metrics like model accuracy, where their model has a certain amount of accuracy or recall. So they're thinking about these models with totally different metrics in mind. So you have the data science teams in your organization that are not thinking of the models they're working with the same type of metrics, if you will, that you're thinking about for the same use case. This isn't really just about terminology either of you call it a fraudulent transaction and I call it model accuracy. This starts with the foundations really of how each of these different teams and people that are in these roles have been trained in how they think about success. Right? As an executive and as a business leader, you think about ROI, you think about business metrics. As a data scientist, They're not trained oftentimes with that business background. They don't often think about these business metrics. They think about the metrics related to the model, right? So there's really a need for translating technical metrics into tangible business outcomes. So as we go down this path and as we start to build out a strategy, that's going to be super important. You're really going to need to focus on how do you bridge that gap and how do you transform that gap, if you will, between business and, lump data science into this IT umbrella. How do you bridge that? And how do you get everyone speaking the same exact language? Several action items to take on as an executive. First, it's establishing clear governance. You really need to define acceptable use cases and ethical guidelines. What are the use cases that you're going to take on as an enterprise? And what are the guidelines for that? In creating what Deloitte calls this cultural fluency with AI. Really building a culture of responsible AI use from the start. You need to start thinking about building trust through transparency. So I would challenge you to openly discuss your AI strategy and the implementation. This shouldn't be something that is just confined to the C-suite, which is a leadership team. This should be something that is discussed and everyone's aware of it. Your employees are silently innovating. If they're using these tools, they're understanding how to use these tools, right? Including them, helping them understand the strategy, helping them understand where the business is going. That really comes down to addressing both the hearts and the minds. So combining technical and emotional support. There's a lot of fear of, am I going to lose my job? Is this going to replace me? So being able to speak to the emotional side of helping people be productive is super important. And really showing that productivity gains won't lead to layoffs. You allow people to be more productive, right? Nobody in the US, at least that I know, is complaining that you have a dishwasher, right? So this evolution of technology and these kind of technical revolutions happen, and we continue to just improve our productivity and work on higher value things. So really think about how can you help from the emotional support standpoint and the culture aspect of your business, then making sure people feel comfortable with us. One way would be to think about how could you create a recognition program? So fostering safe spaces for experimentation, let employees experiment. It encourages sharing of AI successes. And then really building a continuous learning culture. So when you think about these, let's say you have 3 action items as a leader. 1, establishes clear governance. 2, build trust through transparency. And 3, create recognition programs. Remember, you can't micromanage your way out of this transformation. It's happening. If people are using AI, whether they want it or not. The question is, how do you make sure that you lead the way on AI in your organization as opposed to reactively running around trying to do damage control? In our deep dive episode on creating an AI culture from shadow innovation to strategic advantage, we're going to explore how to build a comprehensive strategy around these insights. So join us in the next episode as we dive deeper into creating a culture that embraces AI and unlocks its full potential. That's all for now. Please remember to subscribe to this podcast wherever you like listening to podcasts. You never miss an episode. Take care.